Hey, welcome back, guys. Just wanted to give a little update here. Moving on to the rear. Got everything broken down. Backing plates off. Yeah, it's just dirty. Got a little surface rust there to deal with. Just like the front, this will get just some rattle can after it's cleaned up. Few little things I had issues with since this was a parts rig. The rear end is where I started noticing missing a few more parts. I stole a few of the parking brake stuff when I needed a couple springs for the 80 out there, and when I did, I kind of just pulled stuff off and dropped it on the ground. So I spent a good 45 minutes looking out in the yard for this piece. I haven't mowed my yard in a while, so it's high grass, and I do need this piece because I didn't order a new one for each side, so I'll clean that up. Parts wise, I got same kind of as the front. Got some reman calipers. There's all the parking brake goodies. I just got a cheap one off. It is a Robestos, and I got that on Amazon or Rock Auto, one of the two. The parking brakes suck in Land Cruiser, so I wasn't going to spend good money on Toyota stuff just to have a lackluster parking brake. I did replace a couple things on the 80. The shoes I did get OEM, and they're like 75 bucks. It's ridiculous. So I paid, I think it was $15 for a centric thing. Let's see, yeah. So they're parking brake shoes for both sides, 18 bucks or something like that. So I went that route. Now let's check out, since I got the front end done, and it is kind of sunny right here, so it's nice and shiny. The only thing, few things I'm missing is I still need to get a ABS block off plate, since I only had one of those sensors. As you can see on this side, I just reused the ABS sensor and cut it down to block off that plate. So on the front end, I'm basically done. Just need, like I showed you, that piece. I have the breather ready to for the axle to run up the firewall when it gets to that point. Also, the locker, I ran a separate piece, and that will go to the same spot. One thing about the lockers in the 80, the little vent kind of follows the wiring harness, so it's inside it, and it kind of pops out around the wheel well. And the problem with the rear, which I have, is, so let's see, locker is right here. And so this one came up, I think it went on the other side, but it comes out about right here. And this one looked like somebody had dumped sand in it. It is a non-working locker. But I do have an extra rear right here that I found at the pick and pull. And funny thing about this is the third was taken at the wreckers, pick and pulls. The thirds on all Toyotas go first. Now, I don't know, at first I thought, well, maybe they didn't know what the locker was, they just dropped it on the ground. But when I opened this thing up, when I was actually testing it, I noticed all they got was a little bitty gear that spins in there. They took the gear and they just dropped this on the ground. But, so I'll just get that gear out of that one, and I will have to get the guts out of this to make it work, because as you can see, it is busted there on the piece, and it's not a press and fitting or anything. So hopefully I can get all the guts, pull the electrical out of here, the motor, and put it in here, because I think it's just the motor that's toast on this one. I don't know, it was all corroded, looked gross. I rebuilt it and it still couldn't get any electrical work, so now I got to do the same again. Couple of little things. Rear ABS sensor is right here, and it slides back. I got a little, it's magnetic. Slides in right there, and then it will count, or it actually not count, but it hits those. So that's how it kind of works. But that piece, now we're on the other side. This piece slides in, sorry, right there. So I just banged it out with a hammer, and I'll have that hole. I'll just get a plug or some duct tape or something to seal that off from the backing plate. You can see there's the hole in the backing plate. And another issue I have is, so when I was getting the parking brake stuff off this thing when it was a parts rig, the parking brake was seized on. I couldn't get to the little star screw to adjust it, so I just started pulling, pry bar, all that good stuff, and I banged on it a little bit trying to get it straight. As you can see, it's a little wobbly there. It should be nice and straight like this one, and it is still a little cockeyed on the outside. I don't know if you can see that, but so I'll have to bang that back on where at least it doesn't affect the parking brake and won't rub on the disc. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. A couple other things. We'll go back to the front here. Didn't show you a few other things. Springs are in. These are the Old Man Emu 4-inch comp springs, and it is sitting nice and high right now because there's no engine, but that's going in probably in a couple weeks, hopefully. Got the new adjustable track bar in. It's not really adjusted right now because once the engine's in, it's going to squat, and then it's going to mess up, or that's going to affect where the axle is. So I'll readjust that when the engine's in. Basically, before the first test drive, I'll adjust that and make sure the axle is centered. Steering dampener, there we go. Steering dampener's in. That's about it. Everything's in. One last thing to show you on the front. So I have sway bar disconnects on the 80, and I just did this morning, added them on here. Now, let's see. There you can see. I just basically used some angle iron, cut it down to flat stock right here, bolted it on where the early 90s 80 series had the bump stop here, and I actually run that on the 80. I'll run that on here, and it is the same one that came on the 60 series, so I found one in a pick and pull. I need to find another one, but as you can see, I just pull this. It is, I'll get a better look on this side. So I need to get a washer still, put that on the outside here, but basically just pull the pin, pull that, and then your sway bar will drop back down here, and then you use the same pin to hold it in there. I rarely disconnect the, why don't they go in now? There we go. Rarely disconnect it, but I have on, if I'm doing a lot of stuff, I will disconnect it. So I figured, yeah, you know, I had the angle iron laying around the house. Figure I'll just do it. Plus, right now, because I haven't added sway bar drop brackets, and I am going to make those, which will extend this down. So once this is at level, you want your sway bar to actually be parallel to the ground. So I will wait till actually my ride height and then add in the spacer to drop this down where it is parallel and works properly. So I am in the process of cleaning up the rear end, and that probably take me this week. I still got some parts coming in midweek to later in the week, so I'm giving myself 2 weeks to clean up the rear end, and then I will be hopefully doing the engine. And so motor mounts, I got my motor mounts in. They are right here, and they will, I am not moving these mounts at all. On the 80, those weren't moved. They use the factory mounts. I will need to order some new motor mount bushings, you can see. I don't know if you can see that crack there. So they're relatively cheap, some aftermarket ones. Same ones I have on the 80, so I'll reuse them here. And let's see, I can't remember which side this is since I don't have the Cummins here, but you'll get the gist of it. Drops right in there and be like that. Same for the other side. So that should be easy enough to drop the engine in when there's no body on it, nothing to bang, mess up. So that is an update for today, and I will check back with you guys later in the week. Probably give you, once I get the rear end cleaned up, painted, all back together, rolling chassis, and then the next video or two will be the engine installs. Hopefully within a few weeks. I want to get it done first of the year, by the first of the year. So there's your update. Subscribe to the channel, give me a like, and I will see you guys later. Thanks.